Live. It says we're live. What's up, man? Hi,
Hey,
everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. This is episode 100, and we're looping back to the beginning. My buddy, my really good friend, Air Force cybersecurity, badass veteran, just overall fantastic guy, Tyler Ward from CSG Cyber. Hello, sir. How are you?
hey Jay, I'm doing well. It's Friday. Doing
Can you
awesome.
feel
How
the
are you?
juice, man? Can you feel the live juice? I
I
mean,
can
it
feel it.
feels,
It's
God,
different.
it feels different, right? All right, so
Yep.
let's start off. Who is Tyler Ward? Who is, what is CSG Cyber, and what do you do for your company on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So it's definitely evolved over the years for sure. So I come from an Air Force background. So Air Force cyber and IT operations. I did that for a number of years. Traveled overseas. Was in Afghanistan for about a year, and then in Africa for about 8 months. So fun times. Went on to work for some of the intel agencies out of the central DC region, and that was a good time as well. So a lot of things I can't talk about. Cool stories though. And after that, in 2017, I started my business. There's a lot that happened in between that, but my business focus has been the same from the inception of it is providing exceptional cybersecurity services to our clients, responding to data breaches, performing penetration testing, and being consulting wings for organizations that either are starting from ground zero from their cybersecurity program or they're looking to mature and advance it.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's like sounds so much better than anything I could have said. So
I,
it
I
sounds
didn't
like you've
I didn't
almost said
rehearse
that
it.
a couple times.
I've never said that actually.
You've
No.
never said any of that before. It's the first time. All right. So, who was your first real customer at CSG?
So our first real customer was our first, well, yeah. So our first real customer was a private organization that I was writing cybersecurity articles for. And it wasn't for that much money. It was a very low, project thing that I took on myself. And I love writing because that's really my core. I've been writing since I was a kid. I used to like write stories in school and poetry in the military and
And you have
stuff
a
like that.
book. You wrote a friggin' book.
I did write a book. Yep. Thinking about my next one, but that was where I kind of started. Was an organization that needed to explain what their product did, and they had a cybersecurity product, and they needed some kind of a marketing explanation. So I'm not a marketing guy, so you can forget all the colors and the flair of marketing, but they needed the content. They needed the not a technical breakdown of what their product did, but higher level as to how does this help to solve real world problems. And that was our first real customer. That was our first paid customer. So
And how did you get into doing that for them?
through a recommendation, through a friend recommendation, actually came through from some of the guys that I used to work with out of the DC area, and there was a really interesting project out of DARPA that they were working on. And DARPA projects are traditionally very cloak and veil. Like it's really it can be difficult with DARPA projects to articulate exactly what they do to the public because they're traditionally very secretive. They've come out of a 20-year incubator of top secret work, and now they need to show the public like this product really actually works. So that's
Hmm.
where I made those connections, and they were doing a go to market, and they needed to explain their materials to the public.
Yeah, it's such a good story for people to hear because it's a very and maybe now with ChatGPT it's a little bit tougher, because companies are going to say, "Well, I'll just use that instead." But when
Mhm.
at the time, and I think there's still obviously a real value in having humans writing actual content based off their experience and context and all that sort of stuff. But just being close enough to the problem and knowing enough about it and making relationships and knowing people in the company and doing whatever and like that's how you spun it up and like that's a very cool story because that's how a lot of people get started. They don't set out to build a seven-figure agency. They just like sit down and go, I'm gonna write some blog articles to make some extra money here and there. I know kind of know what I'm talking about, and it's just such a relatable, cool story. And I think, there's just this stigma around like I have to go out and do these 100 things before I go start a business. And it's like you don't have to do that. You can just kind of just get started, doing some stuff here and there. And like, that's how it turns into, then you see the real problems and you hear the real problems and you start to solve
Mhm.
those. So I think that's beautiful. Um,
Yep.
who did you think your customer was when you kind of first officially started CSG, and who is your customer now? Is it the same person? Is it the same persona, or has that changed over time?
So our persona has remained the same, but our customer base has wildly shifted. It's funny because when I started my business, I was really entrenched within that federal space, within the intelligence community, had a lot of connections in there, still do. But my business was directly focused towards them. It was a veteran-owned small business, and we had all of the markings to become a provider of security services within the federal and state government spaces. And that was really our MO, is to go after those contracts. And I had a lot of familiarity with around, government contracting, things like that. So I knew how to navigate those waters. And flash forward to today, and we're basically an all commercial business. Our customers are mostly commercial, but they're tangentially related. A lot of our customers are tangentially related to some kind of government work, whether it's
Mhm.
federal, whether it's Department of Defense, or secret projects and things like that, whatever they're working on. Our customers are related to that federal space, but they're not the agencies within those. They're not the actual federal agencies. So that completely shifted. And the reason why, and it's like I go back to that question of who was your first customer. Like you said, if you set out in creating a business and you have this 100 bullet point checklist, and you have this, I saw something that was funny on LinkedIn, and it said basically no successful entrepreneur ever created a business plan. And I was like, oh, thank you, somebody said it, because for a long time you feel like you're the only one of like, I
Right.
created one in my MBA course, but that was it. But when you go out to set course and find customers, it's really doing things that you're uncomfortable with at first. I've only worked a 9 to 5 job. I've never done this before. I've never taken on a project. I've never built a proposal. I've never provided a quote to a customer. I don't know how to do any of this. And it's getting past that initial, I don't know how to do any of this, and getting matched up with your first customer who's willing to take a risk on you and says, I don't care if, maybe all the T's and the C's aren't, correct, and all the I's aren't dotted, but we like your work. We know what you're capable of, and we're willing to pay you for that work. And once that switch flips in your mind and you realize that you can find customers that are willing to work with you and grow with you, things just change for you, and your whole business mindset changes as well.
Yeah. No, I love
Yeah.
that. Don't let my wife hear you say that about the business plan though, because she's spinning up a business, and like I keep saying, "Where's your business plan?" And it's become like a running joke at this point of like, and I don't, I pitch it to her now because, and I think honestly, I think a business canvas is probably
Yeah.
very helpful for people because it just makes you think about, the business plan is
Mhm.
very stuffy to some people,
Yeah.
but a business canvas is a little more conversational. It prompts a little
Mhm.
more thought. It's a little more, hey, these are the different areas that kind of connect. Like, who are your key partners? Who are your key customers? Like, how much you're going to charge? Like that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
Much less, stuffy than a traditional business plan. So I love that. Um,
Yeah.
so, and how have you that shift that you made from government contracts solely to commercial stuff? How is that kind of fine tune your lead generation and like how you're going after customers, and like how are you going after them today as opposed to when you what you thought you were going to do originally?
Totally changed, right? So the way to go after government customers is, you're plugged into all the different vendor networks. You're attending trade shows and conferences. You're making connections within these agencies on, who are the contracting officers, from top to bottom. And that really shifted into a commercial mindset, which is frankly much easier to do, because there are just so many more opportunities, and it's faster to develop those customers. But I can say that with certainty that um, our marketing, I used to say we don't do any marketing. And really that's not true. We do marketing through our work. That's how we do marketing. We do good work. We know that our deliverables are going to be shared within these client organizations. And when we have key stakeholders within a client, let's say a chief technology officer or even a CISO or a CEO, and they move from organization to organization, they remember our quality of work and they bring us with them. And we've seen that all over the place where we're continuing to do good work within clients. And then the people within those organizations, they spread that word for us. They know of a provider that picks up the phone, that answers their emails, that solves their problems, and that when a problem doesn't fit in a box, and this is really where we differentiate, and I think it's something that a lot of small niche firms like us differentiate in, is when we're presented with a problem that doesn't fit in a box, we break the walls in the box down and we burn it. We don't care about the box. We break it apart, we rip it up, and we figure out a solution to the problem, because in this field, it's very complicated. And with AI around the corner, it's getting even more complicated. So, sorry, a little tangent there.
No,
Yeah,
that's great.
yeah,
It's funny because you had that experience with me.
yeah.
You worked for a company that I worked for, and then, well, not only are we best pals now, but also brought you along, right? Like anything
Yep.
and anybody cybersecurity wise, like Tyler's your man. So it's
Mhm.
kind of just living proof of like it is all about relationships. Like there's
It is.
no other way to say it. Like you can convince yourself otherwise because of all these different marketing methods, but like if you don't have really good relationships with your customers,
Mhm.
they're not going to refer you, they're not going to remember you, and you're just going to be a name that provides some service for a while, and then you don't really get repeat
Yeah.
business. So well, talking about uh traditional marketing means, let's run through some of them in a lightning round that I want to try out with you. So I know
Mhm.
you don't do a ton of this, but I want to just kind of get your thoughts. So love it, hate it, haven't tried it. All right.
Mhm.
So uh, inbound, uh, any ads? Have you spent money on any ads?
Yes. Don't love it, but we've done it.
Okay. And why don't you love it?
Didn't find it effective, and the customers that it brought in for us were not our target demographic. They were bringing in individuals for us, which we are strictly, we work with businesses, so we don't work with individuals. So it was bringing in individuals with computer virus laptop problems, and we just don't handle that kind of work.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
SEO, love it, hate it, haven't tried it.
Hate it. Hate
Hate
it.
it.
Not a big fan. Yeah.
Not a
Yeah.
big fan. Tell me why. And I'm sure if there's anybody listening that's, an SEO person, they're probably bashing their keyboard right now. But what
Yeah.
what why doesn't it work for you? And I agree with you, by the way. I don't think it works for everybody.
Mhm.
Why don't you think it works for you?
My business is built on trust. And if our customers are out on Google looking for what we do, we will never make it to the top of that list. We just won't. And our industry is global. So if you're on Google looking for the services that we provide, you're generally looking for the lowest cost.
Hmm.
And that's just not really where we fit in.
Got it. All right. Let's move to outbound. Cold email. Love it, hate it, haven't tried it.
Um, do I love cold emails? I don't know if anybody receiving them loves them. I will say I don't hate them. I don't love them either, and we do them, but they're very specific. They're very specific on who the person is, and we've done a lot of research about this specific organization that we're sending this email to, and we've gotten to know this person through again, a tangential relationship with somebody in the mix, or we've done our market research on this company. We believe that you need these types of things that we offer, these types of services. So I like it. It's not fun because this response from it can be a little bit rude sometimes. And I know that when I get cold emails, some of them are just really bad. So I think if I love it when it's very pointed and very specific to who you would like to have a conversation with, not just a shotgun blast. Yeah.
Do you use any tools for it to send
No.
cold email? Nope, just
No,
just
I
good
pulled
old
back from that.
pen
Good
to
old
paper.
email. Good
Wow.
old pen to paper, doing market research through manual means of going onto organizations' websites, finding who their key personnel are, what positions that they're in, finding a little bit about their security program through looking at, publicly available information that they may have. And then also looking at what is their forecast as a business. Have they grown from 20 employees to 600 employees in the last 2 years, and they're planning on going public as a company with an IPO? Those are all things that make a lot of sense to us from a security standpoint that we can offer solutions to, because those are the concerns on the minds of the C-suite are, hey, we're growing really quickly. We know we have security risks that are opening up, and we know how to handle those. So
I love that you said all that. There's this stigma against doing what you just said because some people think it's, doesn't work or it's below them or like whatever, but like you got to find your potential customers. You got to find who to talk to. You got to do your homework on, especially when you're starting out and when you're in a growth phase or whatever. Like, and I've even found it's hard to hand that work off still sometimes because there's a lot of training that like just innately, like the context and the experience you have, even if you train somebody up for a year, may not really quite understand like that this company isn't the right fit for just some reason. And that may be the reason why they just, your email goes into the trash or the spam instead of, actually hitting. So I think that's really key that like that is still alive. Doing your homework, find your clients, find the people at those companies, keeping track of them, keeping some sort of kind of rolling, cadence of contact with them. It's like it's the old school method, but it works, right? It's like find your clients and talk to them. Like that's the biggest thing.
And look, we have I just talked to a guy last week that we have been talking to this man and his key staff members, his chief of staff and things like that for 3 years. We've been having conversations. We meet with them quarterly just to talk. They're a huge company. We've never done a deal with them. We don't have anything with them, but we like to sync up with them and they like to sync up with us. So we've developed this relationship over time to where we're not asking them for anything. We just want to be connected because from our standpoint, it helps us, as a small business in working with other small businesses, but also working with small businesses that are acquired by very large businesses. It behooves us to have some kind of knowledge around enterprise clients and how they really operate and how does that bureaucracy operate within those large organizations. I found that to be extremely helpful and valuable, even if they're not a client. For our customers that are literally taking off like rocket ships and being acquired by big organizations, that mindset of how bureaucracy works in those enterprise organizations can be easily forgotten if you are not plugged into those avenues in some
No,
way.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense. LinkedIn outreach. Love it, hate it. Haven't tried it.
I would say I love it. I would say I do love it. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I think that it is a great place to sync up with like-minded professionals, but you do have to be careful around the network that you build because you can wind up in an echo chamber of technology with other technology professionals, right? So at the end of the day, having those conversations with other like-minded technology professionals are great, but they may not be the ones who are ready to strike a deal with you. So I do like that from a standpoint of and here's what I've noticed is people who are in positions, non-security positions, are now exposed to more security relevant information that they were ever before. So we have, people on LinkedIn that we're connected with that get information from us and they're able to take it back within their organizations and ask their internal security teams, are you aware of these types of threats? We see these things that are going on in the news. We came across these things on LinkedIn, and I think it provides a lot of value. And we've also met clients through LinkedIn as well, for sure.
Right.
They've come to us. They've been referred to us. They've liked our posts. We've had conversations with them on LinkedIn. And just, again, it's a great way to just break the ice a little bit so it's not so weird, right? Like a cold email.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's it is the, being where your customers are, right? I mean, I think if you're LinkedIn averse, you're missing out because your clients are probably on LinkedIn. All right. Love it, hate it, haven't tried it. Conferences. I know you've tried it. I know you've tried it. I actually know you've tried it because I talked to you yesterday. But what do you think of conferences? And what have you learned about them as you've attended them, as your business grows?
Okay. Yep. So I love them. I'll tell you why I love them. And I found there are two types of people who go to conferences. Type A are the people who have set up meetings with key people that they know they need to meet when they're there, and sit and have lunch and discuss things of business, and really get some important meetings out of the way. They're generally, if you have a 3-day conference, they generally attend that conference for 4 hours in total. They're not staying for 3 days.
Hmm.
Then you have the other portion of this, which are employees within companies that see it as a 3 to 5 day vacation. And they're there mingling around, kind of making connections, getting free stuff off of tables and things like that. I love them because it gives me an opportunity to kind of centralize a lot of people that I like to have conversations with, and also to visit with new technology vendors that have some really cutting edge stuff. And, we go into those conference halls and, 90% are like, okay, antivirus here and a firewall here. And we see you guys everywhere. But then you have a couple of them that are doing something really different. And
Hmm.
we know that that something different that you're doing translates to exact problems that we're seeing in the field. So I really like conferences for those reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think, I mean, it's it's hard to even know how to be the type A person. I think when you start going to conferences, right? Because you just go
Yeah.
and you're just like doe-eyed, and you have no
Mhm.
you have no real idea, no plan, and like you said, finding out who's going to be there, where they're going to be, where
Mhm.
you need to be at specific times, what conversations to have, connect before the conference. All that stuff is like
Right.
that's mature business
Yeah.
people. I think they kind of get why they're supposed to be there. And the
Yeah.
latter, I think, is probably the majority of conference attendees. But
I was
I
one of them.
totally agree. Oh, I was too. I was like, give me
Yeah.
some free stuff, man. Let's go hang
Yeah.
out. And I was paying
It
to
was
be there. I
fun.
didn't even know why I was there. But
Yep.
now it's a waste of time if I'm not, meeting people that
Mhm.
I know that are going to be there. Tell me about business
Yeah.
groups. Love it, hate it, haven't tried it.
I love them. I do. I think business groups are wonderful. They can be challenging a little bit, but in general, I do love business groups. I think it gives you exposure into echo chambers, which that's why they want to have or that's why they want to have organizations from different business sectors to come in. Like if you have a financial group and they're always talking about finances, they need some security input from time to time,
Right.
right? So those groups have been really beneficial. I really do love them. Yeah.
All right, last one for love it, hate it. Haven't tried it. Upselling existing clients.
Definitely tried it. Definitely works. So I'd have to say lean towards more love it. Uh, so yeah, my philosophy is that, and I've heard this a lot of times before, to where, your customers are a gold mine and things like that. And I get the phrasing on that, but I also understand that you must develop within your customers. You have to develop your security program within your customers. And if that means upselling them, then fine. Then that's what that means. I look at it as far as improving services. Sometimes
Mhm.
improving services doesn't come with a higher price sticker for the customer. Sometimes it's just normal bill as usual, but we are doing something that's improving for them. And sometimes it requires new technologies, which is traditionally an upsell. But I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of just concentrating on the customers that you have, because
Mhm.
in doing so, you're creating this ripple effect that gives you a great reputation of
Right.
these guys just care. They're not out there with this huge net trying to get every organization as a customer. They're really focused on doing the right thing with the customers that they have. And then when they do get new customers, that's great. They can, work their magic within there as well.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense too. And it is I think it's tough sometimes um when you provide a specific service to upsell, because you're like, I'm already doing the thing that they hired me for, so what else am I going to do? So it sometimes it does make sense, and you should
Mhm.
pursue it if there's like you know, a bigger client with other departments and other operations and other procedures and other things that need to happen. But if it doesn't make sense, like, you don't want to be salesy, obviously, to your existing customers. If they don't need something, you don't want to tell them they don't need. There's actually a couple questions, Tyler, from the
Oh,
comments,
wow.
which is incredible.
Nice.
Well, somebody had a comment. traditional business plans work for more mature businesses. At startup or very early stage, there's so many pivots and changes you have to go through. It would make any plans irrelevant very quickly. 110 million% agree. That's why I think the business canvas is great, because you just lay out some kind of key thoughts and points that you can kind of use to establish your original, your initial plan that you want to go after. You're not stuck to this business plan that you have to, agree to and move forward with. So I love that. And then what business groups do you recommend is a question for
Okay.
you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the business groups that I recommend there, so that you have your huge business networks, which like, Forbes. I'm a member of Forbes. Okay, okay. A lot of people. You may come across some valuable connections once every year or so. Small business groups are where it's at. When I say small business groups, I mean local in your area. Where are you at? Are you in Kansas City? Find the Kansas City Technology Group. Find the Kansas City Small Business Consortium. Find the Kansas City Chief Financial Officer group. Local. Always start local. Start in that small pond, because that's where you're going to develop the most meaningful relationships, and you have easy access to them. You can go to lunch with these people. You can have a business meeting if you want to. They're right around the corner, and you start to get plugged into this network. Also, veterans groups are really cool too. Veteran business owner groups. If you're a vet, those have been really great. I find a lot of great camaraderie in there. But essentially, seek out those smaller or how should I say, more pointed and specific business networks, not necessarily the large multinational business networks. Those are great later, but small ones bear the most fruit, I think.
Yeah. And I think the bigger ones seem to be filled with people who are lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're kind of just like
Yeah.
looking for something, and they bite on an ad or they bite on a post somewhere, and you're like, oh, I could maybe get some business. But I 1,000,000% agree. And also, just a tangential point to that, I had a guy on, he runs a company called Balbert Marketing, and he wanted to be the business group guy of Rochester, New York. And it's like such a weird, specific, you know, probably not huge market kind of thing, but it really, really stuck
Hmm.
with me. And it goes to your point about local, because so many people want to be national and international. They want to be this big name and they want to do all this stuff. And it's like, why are you ignoring the fact that you may have business owners or potential leads or customers that are 5 minutes from you, 10 minutes, 30 minutes from you that you can go meet in person, you can talk to, you have the hometown discount that I like to call it, which is like,
Yeah.
I'm from here, you're from
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
Immediate door opener, right? I mean,
Immediate.
it is such a free thing that I think a lot of business owners pass up, because they go, I just want to be this huge thing. I don't really care that I'm in, Buffalo, or I'm in Tampa, or I'm in Philadelphia, or whatever. And it really did
Yeah.
pivot the way that I look at running our business. Like, I want to be the QA guy of Philadelphia. We've talked about this. Like,
Yep.
I want to
Yep.
be, if people say, oh man, my quality assurance sucks. Like, I don't, and if people don't go, well, you should talk to Jay, then I have
Hmm.
not hit the customers in my area. That means there's potential paying customers in my area looking for services I provide that I'm ignoring because I want to
Hmm.
do this big national kind of search. So just to your point about being local, and the other point about local business groups, I think is they may not have customers for you there. They may not be
Maybe
your
not.
target audience, but you will learn so much about how other people run their businesses and how people get customers and get ideas and just like build that
Hmm.
uh, foundation of being a business owner, that I think it's a really great idea to definitely look at any local business group you can. That's why we're part of our local chamber,
Yep.
Philadelphia Chamber, Philadelphia Startup Leaders, the PACT group, and so we're part of all those groups that you kind of mentioned that are like the staple organizations that have some of the key stakeholders for some of the businesses in the area that if you make
Hmm.
relationships with, it just kind of onions out from there. So I absolutely love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
How are you keeping track of your leads and your correspondence and your, kind of your efforts to do outreach? Like, how are you kind of wrangling all that stuff together? Because even me, who's been doing this for a while, I hate spreadsheets. I have a million tools. I have HubSpot. I have this. I have that. I have this. What do you use to kind of put it all together so 2 weeks from now you got to follow up with the guy that you met at the conference so you don't forget?
Hmm. I would say that we don't have. So the volume of business that we have is not so great that we're looking at this mountain of all of these to-dos. And the reason I say that is our lead time to a successful client engagement is kind of rather long if you look at things from that perspective, right? We're looking at about a 30-day cycle from beginning conversation to starting a project up with a client because of the complexities that are involved in it. If it's a compliance project or a virtual CISO engagement, so that lead time already gives us a nice buffer to really focus on that and figure that out. But the way that we track those, I think, is relatively manually in comparison with other organizations, because we're not doing a lot of that outbound lead generation and marketing stuff. We have leads that are highly curated. They're not even hot leads. They're basically engagements at that point. If we're having these types of conversations, we've been introduced, we've shaken hands, and we're in kind of that planning phase. And it's a relatively manual effort through calendar reminders, through people on my team who have certain aspects of setup and pre-staging of an organization or a client that we believe to be kicking off, and making sure that all those checks are done. But I would say it's a relatively manual effort because our lead time is pretty long for a client.
I'm gonna guess that uh, anybody listening that does like enterprise sales probably died a little bit inside when you said 30 days
Probably.
was a long sales cycle, but it's a that's a rather short one in the B2B sales space. But I mean I know what you mean. It's not an
Yeah.
instant, kind of somebody pays you the same day. So I get it. And I think
Mhm.
that's a great answer. Um, yeah.
Unless there is a small caveat to unless we're dealing with a data breach or a cyber attack, which is immediate.
Hmm.
We get the call and we have to figure out how to mobilize.
You're like the
And there are
Ghostbusters at that point. You're just like you're hopping in the
man,
van and you're going.
we are, and I've got a bone to pick with my industry about that. I don't know if this is the right forum for that, but if
Uh,
we have time, I will.
Yeah, maybe if we have time, we'll
Yeah.
let it. We'll be like the grievances time
Hmm.
for Tyler. All right, I have a
Right.
question. If on January 26th, 2024, you're starting a B2B services agency from scratch, doesn't really matter what the industry is, but a B2B service agency, give me 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, to start that business off and try to get some traction as quickly as possible. What are your 3 steps to do that?
Identify your market. First of all, you need to identify your market, of how large is your market, what types of customers are you planning on going towards, and how do you get into those circles to find those organizations. Second is predicting and envisioning growth of your business so that it's not a huge surprise to you when it happens. Because if you walk into a business with any amount of ambition, you are likely to grow. And within a few months or a year or 2 years, you are going to hit a spot of untenable growth to where you don't know what to do with. You don't know how to scale to the next stage. I've been there before, and I've been in that position where you don't know how to scale, so you just don't scale. You don't scale. You stay where you're at so that you can get comfortable enough and find the resources to scale in the right direction. And then also, I would say definitely depends on what type of business that you're in, but your accreditations and certifications, and how do you differentiate yourself from maybe a competitive market, or if there's not a competitive market, how do you create awareness around your market? That's an
Hmm.
interesting problem for an organization that doesn't really have competitors, is how do they even get the message out to the public that this is a thing,
Right.
right? Sometimes it's easier if you're in a competitive market as a new business because the message is already out there and you have 20 organizations that have already done all the marketing for you. And now you just need to get in front of clients. But if you're a new organization that's offering something that's novel, that is a little bit of a challenge. You really have to work on how do you articulate that maybe technical message, or a nuanced message to a market who is just being first introduced to what it is that you're planning on doing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good one because I think the education people I think who need to do the education piece sometimes gloss over it and just go straight to the selling, and then people they don't understand why people aren't buying, and it's because people don't even know what the hell it is you're trying to sell them. So I think
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Mhm.
All right, well, we're a couple more questions here. How afraid of being told no are you today compared to when you first started?
Oh man. So, I mean, no is just I respect it. I really do. I respect it now. Being told no when, a customer is not ready to buy, they're not ready to make the commitment. It just means that they're either lacking the right amount of information, that we didn't do our job well enough to articulate the value. And
Hmm.
that's the way that I look at no's now is at what point in that cycle, given that it's not something that it's just the client doesn't have the money to spend, right? Because that's a pretty obvious no, and you know the reason why. But if they
Right.
have the money to spend, what was the reason of why they didn't go with us?
Hmm.
And what was and how do we fix that, right? So I look at it as an opportunity. First, I really didn't care about being told no. I mean, I don't think I really ever cared so much about that. I didn't really put a whole lot of stake in it, but I know that the initial no's definitely hurt more than the later no's. Now it's just okay. Where was our messaging flawed? At what point in the conversations did things not get articulated well enough? Like all those different learning experiences. So
No, I mean, that is probably one of the better important lessons from this episode is don't I mean, yes, being told no sucks. But if you're I mean, it's the same thing in life, right? Like if you're not learning from it, then what are you doing, right? I mean, I get told no all the time. We have clients that go through the full cycle of sales and, discovery and scoping, and then they just go somewhere else. And you go, it used to be like, anger, frustration, sadness, like all the emotional boxes get ticked. But now it's like, okay, why? Right. And sometimes you can ask, right? I mean, I do
yeah,
that. I ask now, I say, well, what made you go with somebody else? And usually it's price. And I'm like, thank you for going somewhere else because if you're gonna, and that's
mhm,
another just kind of general business, you know, tip is if people are trying to nickel and dime you to death from the start, it ain't gonna end, right? Those are the worst clients typically. They're the ones they
yeah,
don't magically just open up their checkbook. They eventually will be the biggest pain in the ass you have. So be weary
hmm,
of the guys and be able to say no from the start. It's tough. It is very tough though when you're hungry and you're just trying to get business and
yeah,
you're going to say yes to everything. You want everybody just to be your client. So,
hmm,
be on the flip side. You have to be able to say no when it doesn't feel like the right fit early on. So,
yeah,
all right. One more last question. This will be uh, a little more towards just you as an entrepreneur and a business owner. I know you've just been crushing it with kind of your routine and kind of getting back to being healthy. And I think we all kind of go through that thing. It feels like we kind of just go crazy in our 20s and then like our early 30s we're just like just eating like idiots and like things are still fine and then like it catches up with you and then you go holy shit I gotta
mm,
like calm down and like start to get myself back in order. Give me
yeah.
three things you've kind of instilled as habits that have gotten you back to being this trim slim handsome strong entrepreneur that you are today. I mean I look back at our first episode and we both look different, we both sound different, we both feel different, we're
Hmm.
both stuffy kind of younger. I mean, I guess youth is something, but we both feel dialed in now. And I know
Yeah.
personally, just because I know you, that some of that's from you being physically fit and just rocking and rolling. Give me three things that you do to kind of keep yourself tuned up physically.
Oh man, that's a huge part of my life, and it's become, it fitness was always a big thing in my life, but I let it go for far too long in building a business. And you make excuses for yourself, like you said. The important thing for me is my diet for sure, in just watching what I eat and not eating junk. Obviously, no junk food anymore, no pasta, no rice, very limited rice from time to time, um, and putting in a workout every day. Maybe take a day off a week, sometimes on Sundays. And when I say putting in a workout every day, it does not always have to be a super intense workout. Last night, I didn't get done until like 7 o'clock, with my work, and I was dead. I didn't want to do anything, but I went and worked out for just a little while. 40 minutes of a walk or 40 minutes of just light boxing, something like that, just to get the blood flowing. And it keeps you on this schedule, it keeps you on this routine. So your body and your mind isn't on vacation too long. And that's just become super important for me. And then also, I always go back to sleep because sleep is obviously very important for people. And one of the great things as a business owner is you can kind of adjust your schedule to maybe fit in a nap if you need to during the day, and take 30 minutes of shut eye. So I would say if there's one thing that you should get into business, if you should be a business owner, is because you can schedule naps on your calendar, and nobody will really say anything to you. But sleep is really important. So making sure that I'm getting quality sleep has a profound effect on my business and on my day and my energy. Last night I slept really well and I feel supercharged today, right? But some days you're just not clicking on all cylinders. But even on those days where you're not clicking on all cylinders, do something. Do 100 push-ups. Just do something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It all ties together. And
it does.
I found that I agree with everything you just said. And I feel like it's a cascade. Like if you don't sleep well, you're more likely to skip a workout. You're more likely to eat crappy that day. And then you're more likely to just feel like a useless piece of shit at some point during the day because you're just like everything just went to shit. And like, so I mean, yeah, I'm working towards no days off. Like you said, like just especially because during the holiday season, you get, everything's just awful food and it's like you're off work and like you just turn into this, and it kind of exemplified for me why the routine is so important, right? It's great to have some time off, it's great to do whatever, but like your body knows, right? And it's like your head knows, your mind knows whether or not you're keeping up with your work. Nobody else might know. Nobody else might be keeping track of your calories and your whatever. Like and you know how frustrated you get with yourself, and you look on the scale and you look yourself in the mirror and you look at, it's like it all kind of ties back together. So let's end it there. Tyler, I cannot thank you enough, buddy. I mean, I think it's very rare to find somebody like in a tangential, like very close to my space, and as far as like testing and trying to break stuff, and but also just being like a dad and an awesome business owner, and like somebody people want to genuinely be around. And like I would buy a house in Tampa just so we could hang out more. Like I love spending time with you. We do it every month. That's another little thing I would throw out there. If you run a business and you have a friend that runs a business, or you just know somebody that runs a business, ask them if they want to talk once a month. Get on a call. Some of the most like insightful stuff is just from you and I sitting down talking about stuff, and we're like, oh, you should try this, or I've been trying this, or whatever, or I've been working out more, and I go, well, you know what, I need to be getting back to doing that. So I think the whole like you're the sum of the 5 closest people thing is 100% true. Surround yourself with good people, talk to them regularly. And Tyler, I can't thank you enough for being my first guest, my 100th guest. Like, let's just keep doing this forever. And love you, buddy. You're the best. And thank you for being on. And we'll talk again soon. All right.
Awesome. Happy Friday, brother. Pleasure to do it. And I think my audio was a little bit better on this one as well.
I think it was. You used your microphone this time
instead
of whatever we used last time, the tin can.
Whatever
all right, buddy. Thank you, man. Be good, buddy.
All right.
See you.
Thanks, man. Bye.